Now, with this season coming up, I think it is a good time to look at some of the underrated Arsenal players that will be big this season. And number one on that list is Riccardo Calafiori. And after his brilliant game against Athletic Bilbao, people have started to realise how important he is for the team and just how much better he actually makes us. But how does he do that? Let's get into it. Now, it's fair to say that Riccardo Calafiori is someone that a lot of Arsenal fans do not think has been worth the money we spent last summer. And it's not because of his necessary performance on the pitch, it is because of that injury record that has consistently been a problem for him over the time at the club, and even before the club, you could argue, which did raise red flags when we signed him. Now, despite that, every single time Riccardo Calafiori plays and he is fit, he does something that just blows my mind. And I think every time I watch him, and every time you watch him specifically, you realise that this player is a real special talent that needs time in the team and deserves to be that starting left back over Miles in certain situations. Miles is still a kid, he's still learning, he's still young. And while Calafiori obviously is very young, still younger than Bukayo Saka, which gets mentioned all the time, he is someone that is a little bit more experienced at this sort of level and can do different things, which I do think is very impactful. Now, the first reason why I want to go into why Calafiori is so important to this team, and we saw it against Bilbao, was definitely the fact that he is important in this build-up. Something that Arsenal, I think, did really well in this game, and it's not really the video for it, but for instance, we had a really good usage of Rice and Zubimendi together. We've been calling for them to play in a double pivot a lot more, and in this game, they didn't necessarily play in a complete double pivot. There was times where Zubimendi went forward and went into these areas, and you even saw the goal, he ended up being kind of here with the cross. And there was times where Rice went forward as well down his side, but they were not afraid to go over each other or occupy the same areas, which I think is important. Now, the first thing that we did really well in this game, and we did it quite a few times, is we got Zubimendi and Rice to play tight together, which ended up dragging quite a few of these midfielders forward. As you can see just from this level here, the amount of gaps that this creates on this left-hand side, which has been an outball for Arsenal consistently, even in the game before against Villarreal, Kivior kept going to this sort of Gabriel position instead of Miles to put the ball through to the winger, being Martinelli or even Gyökeres when he made movements over there. But what this allowed us to do is get the ball into Gabriel and be able to pass this ball over the lines to Calafiori to go into it. Now, the most important thing about this is we've seen loads of players pick the ball up in this situation. That's obviously nothing to do with Calafiori, how he's picked the ball up there. But Calafiori in these positions is just so much better than a Miles and most other players that we have because of the amount of operations and different things he can do. As you can see, there's so many times where he'll kind of push that wing position and be that overlap for Martinelli, which we keep asking about. And this creates that sort of space in between the lines for Martinelli to be able to run and have that space needed. He can pull the centre-back away, which in the end gives space to Gyökeres to move into the middle. And it gives us a quick overload, getting us up the pitch quicker and breaking that press when teams actually come at us. But there's also moments where Calafiori doesn't have this opportunity. Maybe they have more players over there. Maybe the defender hasn't been baited into anything. And instead, Calafiori can run in between the lines and then switch the ball out to someone like Saka on this right hand side, who is obviously a much more tighter in the box player now with the two wingers coming in. And this is something that Calafiori does. He is very calm on the ball as a carrier, so he can carry the ball very far in these areas, but then he can shift that ball out into either wing, which is very important. Having that sort of due diligence to pass it as well is a major point of his game. And something else I want to mention with Calafiori is that he is a very interesting player and creates chaos and a bit of different sort of attacking positions and patterns that Arsenal need. Something that Calafiori does, which is quite different to any other player I've seen in his position, is that he just makes runs. There is some times where he literally goes from these midfield defensive positions all the way into this attacking position like here, and all these players come back to create that space for him. He will play as a striker sometimes off this left-hand side. If Martinelli is willing to come deeper, come out wide a little bit more, and even Gyökeres we know will come deeper sometimes to work with the players, and he won't sit here and try and carry the ball in deeper areas. He will be in this attacking area to do something with the ball. His off-the-ball running, I think, is incredible. Something that Miles just doesn't really have at the same level as him right now is that when he creates this space for other players, it is impactful. And he gets into these areas, he's good on the ball, he can keep it on him, he's very physical, tight in these good areas, and often a lot of the time you see him carry it, wait for other players to help him in these areas and be smart with it. And I guess in these attacking areas where you see him, in these sort of areas here, he is just very effective. He's very effective at getting into the box, getting passes and shots away, which make him an incredible player for them attacking situations. And in attacking areas, the quick execution of Calafiori to get into these spaces and pass the ball quickly off to someone like Martinelli or even Gyökeres in these areas and create them overloads is very important. He takes risks in the attacking areas, he overlaps when he needs to, which is something that we do need, and he's really the only player that has that in his locker down that side. And he is just willing to take players on and be a very dribbler type of player despite coming off as a physical defender type, which is a very unique profile and is one of the reasons why he was signed in the first place. And the thing is, he will never be this incredible dribbler from central areas like someone like Miles. I think most of his great work in terms of going forward can sometimes be off the ball, but then in that attacking area, he's much more effective. In the midfield sort of areas, he is not going to be as effective as Miles at taking pressure in and going past players. However, he can still do it. He can still keep the ball very well. He is still a very good carrier into tight areas. He's better in space, but he can still do it there. And there's a few times in this game where he's picking the ball up in these central areas, leaning off players, keeping the ball well under pressure, and then just passing it off. He is going to be a player that yet again takes risks, and sometimes that isn't going to work out fully. But because he's got a lot more capabilities in terms of running, passing, and being a little bit more even around the game, it doesn't necessarily matter too much. He can still be effective and get good creativity out of it, and he is that more attacking player that you want to see. Now, defensively, there is also going to be probably issues compared to Miles. I don't think Miles is the best defender in the world, but he's definitely a lot more efficient. He's a better physical type and a lot less complacent than someone like Calafiori. Calafiori is a very aggressive, intent player, and sometimes he does just kind of take players out when he doesn't need to. He runs out of defense a little bit too much and is a bit too aggressive, and even in defensive areas, he can definitely be liable to making big individual mistakes. He is worse in these sort of left back positions defensively than in left centre back, but then I think going forward you really get the benefits of him being in left back a little bit more than centre back, although he can still carry the ball really well out of defence, which is helpful in the defensive areas. And just looking at his stats from this game, you can see that defensive work was barely there. Obviously, Bilbao didn't really attack that much. He didn't have to do much defensive work, but also that's just not his capabilities. Alongside a Gabriel and a Saliba and even a White or Timber, that back three is a much more secure team, and it doesn't necessarily need Calafiori to come back. If you're going to play maybe someone like Ben White and you want him to overlap on that right-hand side a little bit more, then it makes a bit more sense to play a Miles, put him in the back three and help him a little bit more, because I still think there's some problems going into them attacking areas. But something with Calafiori is that he will get into the areas, he will cross, he will do these things that we need the fullback to do. He's very efficient going forward, and you can see the amount of good work he does going forward as well in this game. One accurate long ball, 2 passes into final third, 1 successful dribble, and ended up still having a shot in the game. 14 out of 16 passes. I think there's a lot more to come from Calafiori overall, and I really think that he's one of them players that does make Arsenal better when he plays. Not saying that Miles is bad or anything. I think Miles is individually amazing, one of our best players last season, but I do think there's certain levels of the teams figuring out what Miles is trying to do, and sometimes his carrying motion needs to be replaced with someone like Calafiori, who is going to give that overlapping nation, especially if we're going to sign a winger or an Eze or whatever's going on with any more attacking signings. Now, let me know in the comments what you guys think about Riccardo Calafiori overall. I think he makes Arsenal better. Do you guys think it does? It's definitely game dependent, I will say. And let me know if you enjoyed this video in the comments. If you like this video, please go and watch my video yesterday where we talked about Noni Madueke playing as that left winger. You're in the next one.